Well, hello everyone, and welcome to this English lesson about time phrases. So just so you know, this isn't an English lesson about time. I'm not going to talk about saying that it's 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock, or right now it's 8:30 a.m. in my time zone. But this lesson is going to be about all of those phrases we use that have the word time in it. So I just used one of them now. I used the phrase time zone. So I'll talk about that as one of them once we get the lesson started. So in this English lesson, we'll learn about phrases that have the word time so that you can talk about time better. As humans, we talk about time a lot. I had to get up at a certain time this morning and I had to do a few things before this lesson started. And there are a number of ways to describe how we view time and interact with time as human beings. So, once again, welcome to this English lesson about time phrases. Time and date. So these two words often go together in English. Whenever you have an appointment, so if you have a dentist appointment, you have to remember the time and date. So they're not always together. I said they're together quite often, but yes, you need to remember the time and date. You need to remember the time and date for a doctor's appointment. You need to remember the time and date of perhaps a movie you're going to go see. Maybe you're going to go see a movie with a friend this coming Saturday. It would be very important to remember the time and date so that you can be on time. It's good to be on time for things, and you can be on time by remembering the time and date that something happens. Time zone. So a time zone is the place on Earth where you live and the name of that zone based on time. I live in a time zone in Ontario. I live in Ontario, and my time zone is I am in Eastern Standard Daylight Savings Time. We usually just say Eastern Standard Time, but right now it is 8:34 a.m. where I am. So it's 8:34 in the morning, and I live in the Eastern Standard Time Zone. I think Brent is in the same time zone as me. Canada has a few time zones you can see here. A long time ago, my brother-in-law and sister-in-law lived all the way on the other side of the country in British Columbia. And so there was a 3-hour time difference. So when someone lives in a different time zone, there is a time difference. For some of you, it's later in the day than it is here. For some of you living in Europe, it's 5 or 6 hours later because you live in a different time zone. And then, like I said, we often talk about the time difference. You know, what's the time difference between you and me? The time difference between here and France, I think, is 5 or 6 hours right now. So the other day, I was talking to my friend in France, and they reminded me that it was evening there, even though it was 11 a.m. here, or early evening there. So when you talk about the time zone that you are in, you often also talk about the time difference between where you live and someone else lives. By the way, my time zone is the same as New York. New York is in the same time zone as me. So there's no time difference between me and New York City. So we have a phrase for the time being, and we use this phrase to talk about something you're doing, but only for a few days or weeks or months. A good example would be if you get a job, but it's just a temporary job while you look for a better job. So you might say this phrase this way. You might say, oh, I'm just working at the gas station for the time being because I'm waiting for a better job. Or I'm just working at the restaurant for the time being because I'm looking for a better job. So when you say that you're doing something for the time being, it means you're doing it just for a little while, not forever. Oh, and we also have time change in some countries. So this messes up some of you. This is not nice for some of you, but twice a year, we have time change here in Canada. In the spring, it says over there, you turn your clocks forward and you lose an hour of sleep. In the fall, you turn the clocks backwards and you gain an hour of sleep because we do it at night. And so that's why the time of my live lesson changes every 6 months, because we have time change and then we have to change our clocks here, but you maybe don't do that in your country. Time flies. So this phrase is often used when you're having fun. In fact, the phrase time flies when you're having fun means that when you are doing something fun, an hour goes by really quickly. When you're doing something fun, an afternoon goes by really quickly. So we say, time flies when you're having fun. But we also use it to describe, a good example would be when kids grow up really quickly. So maybe you have children, or you have a niece or nephew, or some children. Time flies is a statement we say when we realize how fast children do grow up. If you meet your brother and you haven't seen your nephew for a while, and all of a sudden your nephew is the same height as you, you would say, "Oh, wow, time flies." An expression indicating how fast it sometimes feels like time is going. To tell time. So the ability to look at a clock and say what time it is called, we use the verb to tell time. We teach children how to tell time. I can tell time, okay? I'm able to look at my watch, and I'm able to look at any clock in the world, and I can tell time. I think clocks are universal. I should have done some research before the lesson. But often children at age 4 or 5 or 6 are taught to tell time. They're taught how to look at a clock or watch and be able to say what time it is. So I think when I was in kindergarten, age 5, or grade 1, age 6, I think somewhere around that age, I learned how to tell time. I still know how to do it. Time off. This is something that we use. This is a phrase we use to describe when you are not working. Someone might have time off during the summer. Teachers in Canada and in the United States have time off in the summer. Right now, I'm on summer vacation. I have time off. You might know someone who works at a factory and they get 5 weeks of vacation a year. That would be nice. You would say, "Oh, when's the next time you have time off?" "Oh, I have time off in a few weeks. I'm going to take 2 vacation days." So time off refers to any time when you are not working, but you can also use it to talk about school. You can take time off from school to do something else. Time travel. So I do like science fiction novels, and I do like science fiction movies, and I do like time travel. It's kind of fun to read a story where they travel in time. So you either go forward in time or backwards in time. So these are all pictures of different, I think, movies. I think we have Back to the Future at the very far side, and at this end we have Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, I think. Then I'm not sure what that movie is. That's the one where Tom Cruise keeps going back in time all the time. And then I'm not sure about the Arnold Schwarzenegger. Is that Arnold Schwarzenegger? I don't know. Anyways, when you travel through time, you can travel forward in time or backwards in time. And by the way, time travel doesn't exist. At least we don't think it does. But we have no evidence that it is possible. It's just something you read about in a science fiction book or see in a science fiction movie. Timeout. So if you watch sports, you know about timeout. If you have kids, you might also know about timeout, and I'll explain the difference. In a game like basketball, the coach or a player can ask for a timeout. A timeout is when the game stops and the coach and players can talk for 30 seconds or a minute. It's different lengths in different sports, but this is what the ref will do, or what the coach might do, like timeout, timeout. They're making the letter T, meaning I would like the game to stop so I can talk to my players. And I think you can only use so many timeouts depending on which sport you're in. We also use this for when we're teaching children how to behave. If a child doesn't do what a parent asks them to do, sometimes the parent will give the child a timeout. They might have to sit on the stairs for a minute, or they might have to sit on a chair in the kitchen, and they're not allowed to go anywhere while they think about what they've done. So a timeout is a common way to train children, to teach children how to behave, but it's far more common to use this when talking about sports. Time limit. So this is something that can cause stress. The other day, I had to renew my driver's license because it's July. So somebody had a birthday, but I had to renew my driver's license and I could do it online. But when I started the process, there was a timer saying I had 10 minutes to finish it. There was a time limit. So when something has a time limit, it means a clock is running and you only have so much time to do something or complete something. So I very quickly tried to do all the renewal stuff and it took me quite a while. Not 10 minutes, but it was a little stressful that there was a time limit. Sometimes there's a time limit. Maybe something's on sale and they'll say for a limited time only. That means there's a time limit. That means you only have a few days to buy that item that is on sale. A timeline. So this is the timeline of different social media apps. And a timeline is this really nice visual graphic of what has happened over time. If you ever studied history in school, you probably have seen or made timelines. So they might say, create a timeline about the history of Canada from 1800 to 1900. So you would draw a line and you would put the date 1800 and 1900, and you would put important events on the timeline and describe each of them. So something that you commonly see in school, but you also might see when you're reading a magazine or other news article. Time lapse. So a time lapse is a technique that you use when taking a photo where you, I think I'm better off describing it with video. So a time lapse is when you take a picture maybe every minute and then you put all those pictures together, and then when you play them, you can see it move. Let me get the dictionary definition of time lapse because I think there's a couple different meanings of time lapse. Meaning of time lapse. So the technique of taking a sequence of pictures at set intervals to record changes that take place slowly over time. Frames can then be combined and watched as a video at normal speed, showing the action much faster. So hopefully that made sense, but I think you understand what a time lapse is. It allows you to, like if I was to do a time lapse of this lesson of me here, and then you would watch the whole lesson in 1 minute, and it would just be one picture of me every minute for an hour. So it would end up being 60 seconds long if it was 60 frames per second. Hopefully I explained that well. I'm not sure I did, but I think I'm always allowed one slide during the lesson that I don't explain well, and then you can figure it out on your own. Time management. This is something that you want to be good at. It's a good skill to have. When someone has good time management skills, when they're good at time management, it means they are really good at planning things. If your boss isn't really good at time management, it's probably not a fun place to work. Things probably happen late or early or not at all. And so it's nice when you work with people or when you work for people who have good time management skills. They write things down in a calendar. They write down the time and date of things. They communicate well with people. Like, don't forget the meeting starts at 9. They have a really good ability to manage their time, and if they're in charge of other people, to manage the time of others. Time management. From time to time. So this phrase is used to talk about something that you don't do very often. Something that you do every once in a while. That's another English way to describe it. So here's how I would say this. Most people from time to time will travel. They don't travel every day. They don't go on vacations every day. But from time to time, they'll go and visit someone far away. Jen and I go and see a movie from time to time. That doesn't mean we go every weekend or every day or every month. It just means that Every year, we see about 4 or 5 movies. So we go see a movie from time to time. Some of you watch these English lessons from time to time. Some of you come every week, but some of you just watch one from time to time. You don't watch one every time I do one. Sorry, I have a little tickle in my throat. I'm going to go over here for a minute. Excuse me. I think I got rid of that. I should cover the mic. Sorry to do that in the middle of a lesson. But sometimes when you talk, your voice gets a little scratchy. It's from all the yelling I did at my birthday party. Or did I? Maybe my birthday party is next week. We'll see. Time to kill. When you have time to kill, it means you are waiting, you're somewhere, and you don't have anything else to do. The best example I can give is this. Sometimes my kids have an appointment, so I'll bring them to the dentist, and then I have time to kill. While they go see the dentist, I have time to kill. So usually I go on my phone, I reply to some comments, I might run and get some groceries, because when you have time to kill, it's nice to fill that time. There's another phrase. It's nice to fill that time with some errands or to get something done. So if you are ever, a good example too would be if you're traveling and if you land at one airport and then your next flight doesn't leave for 4 hours, you would say, I'm going to have 4 hours to kill. I'm going to have time to kill. So basically you can sit at the airport and study English. That's what you should do when you have time to kill. A timetable. So a timetable is basically an outline of your week with important things on it. And it's mostly used, at least in Canada where I live, when talking about students. Students will receive their timetable at the beginning of a school year if they are in a high school or if they're in college or university. The timetable will show what classes they have on certain dates. This timetable, I think, says something about watch Bob's new video and live lesson. I think that's what I put those words on there. But a timetable, again, very commonly used when talking about students. And it's common to have a kind of an outline of when you have classes and sometimes where you have them. So that is a timetable. Time will tell. So this is a phrase we use when we're not sure when something will be finished, or we're not sure what the future will look like for someone. So here's a couple of examples. Maybe there's a house being built and they don't seem to be working on it very often. You're not sure they're ever going to get done. So you could say, well, time will tell. Like if we wait long enough, we will find out if the house is going to be finished. Maybe you know someone who's in university and they're not doing well. And you might say, someone might ask the question, do you think they'll graduate? And you could say, oh, time will tell. So basically you're saying, if you wait long enough, time will reveal the answer to the thing you are thinking about. Time will tell. Time to. So we start a lot of sentences with time to. Probably a common one would be time to eat. So when I'm making supper, when supper is ready, after I'm done cooking the food, in my house, I might say, time to eat. Like I might yell, time to eat. So my kids know that it's time to eat. I might text Jen and say, time to eat, with a smiley face. We also say time to go, like in the morning when we're getting ready. When it's the time where we need to leave, I'll say time to go. Or my kids might say, is it time to go? Is it time to eat? That's another common question in my house. So we do start a lot of sentences with this. Time to go, time to eat, time to start the lesson. It's a fun way to start a sentence. Ahead of time. So this person is making dough. I'm going to assume they're making pizza dough. When you make pizza dough, you want to make it ahead of time. What that means is if you want to eat pizza at night, you need to make the dough in the morning. You need to make it ahead of time. You can't make pizza dough when you want pizza because it has to rise and you have to knead it and it has to sit for a bit. It takes a few hours. So you make the dough ahead of time. Whenever you do something ahead of time, you do it before you actually need it. So what's another good example? If I was going to go for a bike ride, I would want to check the bike ahead of time to make sure the tires are pumped up. I wouldn't want to check over the tires and the bike the minute I want to ride. I want to do that ahead of time. Let me see, what's another good example? I'm trying to think of another good example. Cooking is a great example, right? If you have a lot of people coming over and you're making a big meal, you might want to prepare some of the ingredients ahead of time. You might want to chop up the vegetables and have everything in the fridge ready to go. You want it ready ahead of time, the first time. So when you talk about doing things, if it's something you've never done it before, then when you start doing it, that's the first time. So the first time I rode a bike, I fell off. The first time I tried to skate on ice, I fell. The first time I drove a car, I was really, really scared. I didn't like driving when I was 16. So the first time. So whenever you talk about something that you've never done, and then you start doing it, that there's always the first time. Okay. The first time I climbed a tree, I fell out. I remember that as a really little kid, the first time I climbed a tree. I think it was the first time. We also have the last time, and this kind of has a couple of meanings. So one would be this. This person is obviously graduating. So this is the last time that they'll be at this school. This is the last time that they have to write an essay. So the time, it's when you don't have to do anything anymore. So I was happy because when I finished university, when I wrote my last exam, it was the last time I would have to write a test, although I did do tests after that. We also use this to talk about the most recent time that we did something. So the last time I drove my van was about an hour and a half ago. I brought one of my kids to work. The last time I had a sip of water was about 3 minutes ago. So I'm going to have another sip now. So it can mean, you're doing something in life, and then that point where you stop doing it, that's the last time you do that thing. But it can also refer to the most recent time. The last time I held up my phone was 5 minutes ago. And here's my phone again. It's broken. I'm sad. So a couple different meanings there. Next time. So next time, I'm going to teach a lesson, I think, about gigantic things. So I'm referring to, there's a series of English lessons, and I'm talking about next time as opposed to last time. Okay. Last time I talked about tiny things, right? Was that last week? This time I'm talking about time phrases. And next time, I think I might do a lesson on gigantic things. We'll see. That lesson's half done. I'm not sure I'm going to do it. A good time. When you are enjoying something, you are having a good time. I hope that when you watch these English lessons, you have a good time. When you have a good time, you're happy. You're enjoying the thing that you are doing. I have a good time when I'm teaching these lessons. I have a good time when Jen and I go see a movie. It's a good time. We have a good time together. So a very simple phrase, but I hope that most of you are having a good time right now. Once upon a time. So this is how a lot of fairy tales start. Fairy tales are like old stories about, wizards and knights and those kinds of things, and fair maidens. So they often start with once upon a time. There's a TV show, I think, that has this as a title. But you might have a story where it's like, once upon a time, there was a man who lived on a farm. And it tells the story, and that's how it is introduced. A very common way to introduce that. To waste time. So I don't like it when my kids waste time. I actually don't like it when anyone wastes time. Sometimes at work, I'm in a meeting and someone will talk forever, and I don't like it because they're wasting time when they do that. They're not contributing to the meeting. Sorry. Hopefully none of my colleagues are watching. So when you waste time, you are not working hard. You are not being productive. You are not playing as you're not a good member of the team. So this person has decided to waste time. It's not good to waste time. I think in French, is it gaspiller? Is that the word, the verb gaspiller? In the chat, maybe someone can let me know. But to waste time. Is gaspiller or gâcher? I don't know. I should stop saying French words because who knows what I'll say. To take time. In English, we talk about this when it's important to do something. So it's important to take time to visit older people. It's important to take time with friends. It's important to take time to do something properly. Okay. So when you take time, it means you intentionally decide to spend your time with some people. Okay. So you need to take time. Now I'm going to add a word here. When you take your time, it means to go slowly. But when you take time, it means you intentionally decide. So I take time every week to visit my mom. I haven't actually visited my mom for a couple of weeks because I did just see her a few days ago, not for my birthday, just so you know, but I did just see my mom a couple of days ago. But usually I take time every week to visit my mom. And Freddie Wolf says, yes, gaspiller, perdre, gâcher. Merci beaucoup. To have time. So simply put, you either have time or you do not have time. Okay. So obviously you have time this morning to watch this lesson. I have time to teach this lesson. Maybe last week you did not have time, and so you didn't come to the lesson. Maybe next week you will have time and you will be able to come to the lesson. So this is probably one of the more common ways to talk about whether you can or can't do something. Okay. Sometimes people will say, I didn't have time to eat breakfast this morning. I have some students who say, oh, I'm so hungry, I didn't have time to eat breakfast this morning. It's not good to not eat breakfast, by the way. Sometimes students are like, oh, it's nice to have time to just sit and talk instead of learning new things. Sometimes students like to just have time to talk. And give it time. So this person obviously injured themselves. And one of the things that happens when you injure yourself is you get very, very frustrated. But sometimes you just need to give it time. You need to be patient. So basically, give it time means be patient. If you hurt yourself, you have to give it time. It does not heal instantly. It won't heal by tomorrow. Okay, so you need to give it time. You need to just let your finger heal so eventually you can get back to doing the things that you want to do. You need to give it time. Some of you might have too much time on your hands. I'm happy that you've come and that you are watching the lesson. I'm glad that you had time. But sometimes people have too much time on their hands, or you might have too much time on your hands. This is often true of children in the summer in Canada because there's no school and they're too young to get a job and they don't know what to do every day. Maybe they don't have a hobby. Maybe their friends all have jobs. Maybe they're 14 or 15 and they just sit around and they're bored. We would then say that person has too much time on their hands. My mom now lives in an old age home. And she said she likes keeping busy because she has so much time on her hands. So she likes the fact that she can do different things throughout the day because it's not nice to have too much time on your hands. It's nice to be busy doing things and learning things or making things or reading things or learning English. Game time. So game time refers to when a game starts. So quite often people will say, are you going to watch the game tonight? Yeah, when's game time? Or what time does the game start? Or you might even say this as an expression, like, In our house, if we know the Toronto Raptors, if the game starts at 8 o'clock, Jen might say, oh, game time. Let's turn the TV on. So game time refers to the time that a game starts, usually a sporting game. So game time. It's game time. See you next time. This is the last slide, by the way. This is me outside yesterday taking a picture. My hair does look a little more gray in that picture. Oh, well, I should stop worrying about that. Every year around my birthday month, I start to think about how gray my hair is, but oh well. I'm not someone who will ever dye my hair. It's just too much work and it costs money. So anyways, see you next time. So I'm using the phrase next time to say, see you next time. I hope you have a good week. I hope you have an enjoyable weekend, and I hope you have a good day too.